Okay, how's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. Okay, well, so in today's episode, I thought I'd try to say something very briefly about Nietzsche's view on the importance of this world and of nature in general. And here I'm drawing mostly from what Nietzsche makes his character Zarathustra say in his seminal work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so what Zarathustra wants us to do, and Zarathustra, by the way, is in many ways Nietzsche's mouthpiece. What he wants us to do is to reclaim our faithfulness to the earth, to nature. You see, what Nietzsche believes is that Christianity and other worldly philosophies, like Plato's, for example, show disdain for things of this world in favor of things of another world, of a world to come later. And as such, he thinks that religious and metaphysical views like this are essentially life-denying. Basically, they refuse to accept nature, and along with it, our own human nature. They deny the flesh, he thinks. They're anxious about the body and about sexuality, and they refuse to accept and to pay tribute to our instincts and our appetites. As one commentator puts it, ultimately they denigrate the body and the senses, and they declare an all-out war on the passions. When it comes to Christianity, Nietzsche references several examples from the Bible, especially in one of his later works called The Antichrist. For example, there he mentions how Jesus, in Matthew, counsels us to pluck out our eyes if we sin. And he also cites Galatians, where we're told that those of us who commit acts of the flesh will not inherit the kingdom of God. And like I mentioned, he often also attacks Plato's otherworldly or anti-bodily orientation. And actually, there's a funny story often told about the later Neoplatonist Plotinus that sort of reflects this. The story goes that apparently Plotinus was so committed to Plato's ideas regarding the imperfection of the human body that he refused to acknowledge his birthday and to have any painting done of him because he wanted absolutely no record of his physical self, which it seems he saw as nothing but a gross and a highly imperfect vessel for his soul. Okay, but more fundamentally, I think it's pretty clear that Nietzsche thinks that the most important reason that Christians and other worldly philosophers like Plato refuse to accept nature as a whole is because they're unable to deal with becoming. You see, this is what nature is. It's always in a state of change, of becoming. And as such, it's marked by destruction and death, by impermanence. But here's the thing. Death and change and age are too painful for most people, Nietzsche is saying. Suffering for them becomes an objection to life rather than an inevitable fact about it. In fact, death and suffering becomes so painful that stories have to be fabricated in order to rationalize them away. And this, he thinks, is exactly what Christians and certain philosophers of the past have done. They've transformed the world of senses, the world right here, the natural world, into a world of illusion and falsity. And in its place, they've exalted a non-physical realm, a realm where things never pass away, where there's no becoming, and where things are truly the most real. But the result of all this, Nietzsche thinks, is that we've set us up against ourselves. That's to say, we're encouraged to hate what is real, namely our own nature and the very real world of change and misfortune, and to love what is not real, a permanent, unchanging state free of loss and suffering, and most importantly, time. Well, you could argue that Nietzsche's life work was to overcome this impulse to look for salvation and moral perfection in a world free from change and loss. Indeed, the opposite was his impulse, namely, to say yes to everything that exists and to love it as it is. And this is what Zarathustra basically counsels. As free spirits who have truly accepted the consequences of the death of God, we must now begin to build a new foundation, a new ground, and this will be an entirely naturalistic one. We will embrace and affirm this world and only this world. And if there's any doubt that this is the message, let's hear it from Zarathustra himself. I entreat you, my brothers, remain true to the earth, and do not believe those who speak to you of super-terrestrial hopes. They are poisoners, whether they know it or not. They are despisers of life. Bye for now.